Hey YouTube friends, today it's time for me to harvest some sweet potatoes. I grew all my sweet potatoes this year in buckets, cardboard boxes, and storage bins. So we're gonna see how that turned out and what kind of a harvest we've gotten. I don't know. Sweet potatoes are one of those things that you just plant and you go on faith. The plants have looked great, but you really don't know how well you are producing sweet potatoes until it comes to harvest time and you actually dig them out. So let's dig in. I just really like the way sweet potatoes grow. Isn't this just a beautiful plant? And they're really easy to grow. They don't require a whole lot of work. I don't fertilize mine. You know, they pretty much, I give them water to start with, but they pretty much just take care of themselves. And look how they just spill out over. Now this is a partial bucket. This is a 55-gallon drum that I cut into sections. And so it just, you know, it's like 1/3 of a 55-gallon bucket. Not a very pretty container, but then the plants just spill over it. And they actually have some pretty flowers when they bloom. As you can see, here's a few of the flowers there. So they have a pretty look to them, and they just spill over like that. I've actually seen some people who put them in hanging baskets and put them on their porch. So they're a very versatile, very pretty plant. Make a great ground cover. There could be all kinds of ways that you could use this plant. And of course, they give you sweet potatoes, which are a wonderful vegetable that's a staple, provides calories and stores for a long time. I still have sweet potatoes in my pantry from when I harvested a year ago. So they've lasted 12 months and they're still ready to go and edible. So these are going to be some great sweet potatoes. Can't wait to harvest them. I also grew some in 5-gallon buckets. So this is going to be interesting to see how that worked. And then over here, you can see how I grew some in these plastic storage bins. So we'll see how that worked well. That one didn't seem like it did as well, but you can see this one here is just beautifully lush and ready to go. All right, let's start with these buckets and see how they did. Got a couple big ones there. These smaller ones are edible too. Another good sized one. So from our buckets, we got a few potatoes, but it's nothing particularly awesome, but we got a few good ones in there. And I guess you kind of expect from a small bucket, you're probably not going to get as many potatoes, but we still got a few, and they were super easy to harvest, super easy to grow. Now we're going to check out some of these bigger bins and see if we did any better. And if you see this one here, that is basically the same thing that we have here, but it's just full of vines that are spilled out all over it. So the first thing we're going to have to do is get rid of all those vines so that we can get to the bin.
I never really know what's going on. Look at me sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart so slow. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Losing almost all my energy. It's getting hard to talk to you, and I'm the only one who speaks. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart so slow. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Here we go, turning all the wrongs into rights. Here we go, you could take me there tonight. Whoa, this life is all we know.
The difference that I'm seeing between using the 5-gallon buckets and using what's about a 17-gallon container. So let me show you side by side. So you can see all of those containers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 buckets compared to one container here. This is what I got from the 13 buckets, and I got almost twice as much just from one single larger container. So the verdict on this is just that the larger container was way more productive. Probably might not use 5-gallon buckets to grow sweet potatoes again. I think I'm just going to stick to the larger, because for the amount of space, it's just way more productive and really just as easy to harvest. All right, now we're going to see how we do in our storage bin. So we can see we didn't get quite as many of these from the bin as we got from the ring. However, it's not really a fair comparison, because what I had growing in this bin were these Murasaki sweet potatoes. And they are a Japanese white-fleshed sweet potato. You can see right there, the inside of that sweet potato is not yellow or orange like a regular sweet potato, it's white. They're very tasty, but they just don't grow as big, and they're just not as productive. But we still got more from the bin than I think we were getting from the buckets. So just that slightly larger container size, it's yielding more than the small 5-gallon buckets. Now we're going to take a look at this one. This was actually a cardboard box, which I tried for the first time this year. I actually worked well with the Irish potatoes that I grew back in the springtime, but I don't know if it was just this particular cardboard box. It didn't hold up well and it fell apart, but I was still able to grow. Even though the cardboard box fell apart, the pile sort of held together. So let's see what we get out of that.
You're the guiding light that brightens up the night. Until you come inside, my heart is lonely. You're the only star in my blue heaven, and you're shining for me.
So the cardboard box did pretty good. Grew some bigger potatoes than the bin did. That could be for a lot of reasons. It could be that the soil was looser, less compact. It could also be just that it was getting a little more sun right here where it was, although they're right next to each other. Just some variables. Either way, I'm happier with both the bin, the ring, and the cardboard box than I am with those buckets. As I was thinking about it, thinking about the amount of sunlight that those potatoes get, the buckets were growing over here in this arch trellis, and so as you can see, many of those buckets were inside the arch trellis, which obviously was getting a lot of shade. Some of the buckets were also on the outside of the arch trellis, which would get more sun, but still it's growing against what's, you know, basically a wall of shade. So as the sun comes up over here and goes down over there, they're going to get a lot more shade in that spot than these that are growing out here in the middle of the yard. So in defense of the buckets, it may have been affected by the amount of sunlight that they were receiving. So if I was going to make this a truly fair experiment, I want to try this again, but grow them in a really sunny spot. So I had these strange weeds grow up in one of my bins where I'm growing my sweet potatoes. Also had some beans growing in here. But it's like a little balloon that's growing on this plant. And I don't know, anybody know what that is? Never seen anything like that before. Really interesting. I guess it's just a weed, but I've never seen anything like that. And I think that there are seeds inside of that little balloon. So inside is some little berries or seeds or something, some sort. So anyway, anybody know what that is? Comment below and let me know.
Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. Through their faith, the people in the days of old earned a good reputation. By faith, we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command, that what we now see did not come from anything that can be seen. It was by faith that Noah built a large boat to save his family from the flood. He obeyed God, who warned him about things that had never happened before. By his faith, Noah condemned the rest of the world, and he received the righteousness that comes by faith. It was by faith that Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home and go to another land that God would give him as an inheritance. He went without knowing where he was going, and when he reached the land God promised him, he lived there by faith, for he was like a foreigner, living in tents. And so did Isaac and Jacob, who inherited the same promise. Abraham was confidently looking forward to a city with eternal foundations, a city designed and built by God. It was by faith that even Sarah was able to have a child, though she was barren and was too old. She believed that God would keep his promise, and so a whole nation came from this one man who was as good as dead, a nation with so many people that, like the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore, there is no way to count them. It was by faith that the people of Israel went right through the Red Sea as though they were on dry ground. But when the Egyptians tried to follow, they were drowned. It was by faith that the people of Israel marched around Jericho for 7 days, and the walls came crashing down. It was by faith that Rahab the prostitute was not destroyed with the people in her city who refused to obey God, for she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. How much more do I need to say? It would take too long to recount the stories of the faith of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and all the prophets. By faith, these people overthrew kingdoms, ruled with justice, and received what God had promised them. They shut the mouths of lions, quenched the flames of fire, and escaped death by the edge of the sword. Their weakness was turned into strength. They became strong in battle and put whole armies to flight. Women received their loved ones back again from death. But others were tortured, refusing to turn from God in order to be set free. They placed their hope in a better life after the resurrection. All these people earned a good reputation because of their faith. Yet none of them received all that God had promised, for God had something better in mind for us, so that they would not reach perfection without us. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated at the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility he endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. After all, you have not yet given up your lives in your struggle against sin.
Friends, it takes a lot of faith to be a gardener. But I want to tell you something. Faith is something that's not just for your garden. Every part of life requires faith. So have faith. And make sure you're putting your faith in the right things and in the right one. Could I suggest Jesus Christ? He is the one that you can trust no matter what. He will never leave you or forsake you. And he is the key to an abundant life in this world and eternal life in the one to come. Let's get out there and let's grow and be fruitful.